Or, if you have never been to heaven, never seen heaven, and do not know about heaven, you can learn about the second home created by Life Genuine. The second home is not heaven, but it is close to heaven. Knowing the second home is akin to knowing there is a heaven. If you cannot understand heaven through the second home, then you can perceive heaven through the people you interact with. If the people you interact with always bring you happiness, joy, freedom, and bliss, then you should know that heaven exists. Whether one can go to heaven has nothing to do with social status and power, wealth, ability, wisdom, age, knowledge, education, reputation, appearance, parents, what great achievements one has made in human society, what religion, political party, or group one has joined, how many churches, temples, lecture halls, Taoist temples, mosques one has built, the family and environment one was born into, how many incense sticks were burned or how many times one kowtowed, how many good deeds one has done and how many lives one has saved, how much suffering one has endured and how much bliss one has enjoyed, how much teachings of gods, Buddhas, celestials, and saints one has spread, how much merit one has, how many masters and disciples one has, which God, Buddha, celestial, saint one follows, and even more so, it has nothing to do with what one believes in or does not believe in and whether one is devout or not. Whether one can go to heaven has only one standard, that is, your quality of life must match the quality of life in heaven. The quality of life in heaven is very simple and pure, that is, unselfishness and selflessness. That is to say, once one achieves unselfishness and selflessness, one is the life needed by heaven. No matter when one dies, whether at 3 years old, 30 years old, or 300 years old, no matter how one dies, whether from starvation, burning, collision, illness, murder, entrapment, or natural causes, one can go to heaven after death. If you want to go to heaven, you must achieve unselfishness and selflessness. How can one achieve unselfishness and selflessness? One needs to repay debts, end worldly ties, make formless alms, and perfect and beautify the non-material structure of one's life. I want to liberate all beings. Don't think so, no beings need you to liberate, you are liberating yourself. Liberating oneself is liberating all beings. I want to save all beings. Don't think so, no beings need your saving, you are saving yourself. Saving oneself is saving all beings. I am helping others. Don't think so, others don't need your help. You are helping yourself. All this is for your good. Don't think so, you don't know what is good and what is bad, what you think is good may be bad, what you think is bad may be good. If you are entangled in worldly ties, you cannot go to heaven. If you have debts, you cannot go to heaven. If your non-material structure of life is not perfect, you cannot go to heaven. In an environment composed of money, power, class, family, and country, it is very difficult to achieve unselfishness and selflessness. It can even be said that it is almost impossible, so in a secular environment, it is very difficult to find a selfless and egoless person, almost impossible to find. If you want to go to heaven, you must achieve unselfishness and selflessness. To achieve unselfishness and selflessness, the best place to practice and cultivate at present is the second home created by Life Genuine. If you cannot achieve unselfishness and selflessness, then don't harbor the improper thought of going to heaven. Instead, without any distinction between true and false, good and evil, beauty and ugliness, kind and bad, just accept the cycle of reincarnation in the middle and lower realms of life. This life as a human, the next life as a dog, the next life as a pig, and the next life as a human again, reincarnating endlessly. Experience the sweetness, bitterness, sourness, and spiciness of life, as well as the joys and sorrows, and the inevitability of birth, aging, sickness, and death of various lives. This life does not know the affairs of the past life, coming and going in confusion, which is also a good choice. 生命的跃升需要脱胎换骨. The transformation of life requires a complete metamorphosis. Jiefeng, July 22, 2024. The journey from human to celestial is a leap in life, a transformation from one form to another, requiring a complete metamorphosis. What is metamorphosis? A butterfly emerges from a caterpillar. The process of transforming from a caterpillar into a butterfly is metamorphosis, marking a leap in life. Recently, I was amazed to witness an extraordinary phenomenon. Some dandelions at the Life Genuine International Family's North American retreat have transformed into plantains. This seems almost unimaginable, especially as the dandelions lining the paths to individual cabins have mostly turned into plantains. This marvel of nature also offers a revelation from the Tao. Dandelions are abundant throughout the retreat, densely covering the grasslands and slopes. When they bloom, they turn the ground into a sea of gold, a beautiful sight. But once these golden blossoms turn to white fluff, their parachute-like seeds drift with the wind, often sticking to window screens and becoming a nuisance. Some time ago, I visited Bella Coola and noticed that within an hour's drive, there wasn't a single dandelion in sight. I thought, how wonderful it would be if our retreat could also be free of dandelions. Amazingly, some of the dandelions at the retreat began to change, undergoing a metamorphosis into plantains, a plant I cherish not only for its medicinal seeds but also for its edible leaves. In spring, I used to gather plantain leaves to make a tangy dish. The caterpillar crawling on the ground undergoes metamorphosis, emerging as a butterfly that dances among mountain blossoms. Similarly, dandelions can transform into plantains, plants that hold more value. These transformations inspire us to realize that people, too, can undergo metamorphosis and reach a celestial state. Every metamorphosis signifies a leap in life. For humans, this celestial metamorphosis requires only 6 words of wisdom: unselfish, selfless, and free from attachment. Self-centeredness, ego, and attachment characterize the human state, while unselfishness, selflessness, and detachment define the celestial state. When someone reaches a state of unselfishness, selflessness, and detachment, they have achieved metamorphosis. They are like a caterpillar transformed into a butterfly or a dandelion into a plantain, and are ready to ascend to a celestial realm, embracing a life beyond the ordinary. Even in this world, those who live unselfishly, selflessly, and without attachment are already living the celestial life, not an earthly one. Many members of Life Genuine currently embody this truth in their lives. 提升生命频率的8条途径 8 paths to elevate the frequency of life. Jiefeng. August 19, 2024. Each form of life down to every individual has a unique frequency. The core of life is the soul, which is consciousness, so life frequency essentially reflects the frequency of consciousness. Understanding this can be complex, but Dr. Hawkins' scale of consciousness energy levels offers a simplified guide. In the universe, the highest energy level belongs to the greatest creator, with a frequency level in the billions. Next come the gods, with average levels in the tens of thousands, followed by angels, celestials, and Buddhas with levels in the thousands. Humans vibrate at levels in the hundreds, animals in the tens, and plants in single digits. Note, energy level here specifically refers to consciousness frequency, not the frequency of non-life material. For clarity, the minimum energy level for entry into the lowest heavenly state is 500. This means a life frequency of 500 Hz or above is required to enter heaven. Entry into mid-level heaven requires 600 Hz and above, while higher levels of heaven require frequencies of 1000 Hz and beyond. To meet the threshold of primary heaven, here are 8 ways to elevate your vibration. A mind free of obstructions. A mind unburdened by obstacles experiences a significant rise in frequency. A mind free of resentment. Resentment hinders ascension. A mind free of pride and fear. Free yourself from arrogance and any fears. Overcoming life's gravitational pull. Free yourself from debts and worldly attachments. Daily joy and cheer. Cultivate joy and a light heart every day. Optimism, romance, and playfulness. Approach life with the spirit of lightheartedness. Formlessness and non-action. Adapt to circumstances with ease, flow with spontaneity, and act naturally in response to life. Keeping a heart of reverence. Follow your heart's desires without overstepping boundaries. Attaining these qualities will elevate your frequency to 500 or above, marking you as a heavenly life. Achieving a state of owning nothing yet possessing everything allows life frequency to soar into the thousands, signifying entry into the higher realms of heaven. The foundation for elevating life frequency begins with cultivating the inner garden of your soul, followed by upgrading your thinking from material to image-based, associative, illusory, visualized, tai chi, non-form, and ultimately holographic thinking. Ultimately, the highest state of life is attained through unselfishness, selflessness, and non-attachment. The frequency of each person's life is perceptible. Through brief interaction, one can sense a person's vibrational frequency, and in some cases identify their developmental path, whether toward heaven or hell, continued human reincarnation, or descent into the animal realm. Dr. Hawkins' energy scale can serve as a helpful reference for these insights. 未来的生活环境由意识内容构成。 Future living environments are created by the contents of one's consciousness. Jiefeng. October 7, 2024. This is one of the mysteries of life. Have you ever thought about what kind of environment you might live in the future? In my writings, I've said that the future is shaped by imagination, not simply by hard work and effort. I have given numerous examples to prove the reliability and truth of this concept. Reflecting on my own experiences as a child, I often gazed at the sunset, daydreaming. Watching the sun set in the west, I always felt that the place where the sun touched the horizon was incredibly beautiful. The west was a place that deeply captivated my heart and soul. 30 years later, I found myself far from home, living in the direction of the setting sun, and for 16 years, I enjoyed an exceptionally comfortable and delightful life. It was a time of joy, freedom, and happiness. I lived in a large villa, swam year-round in my private pool, and had 2 large dogs running playfully in the front and backyards. I employed 2 housekeepers, one to tend the garden and outdoor areas, and the other to handle laundry, dishwashing, and indoor cleaning. All year round, the garden was lush, full of greenery, the scent of flowers, and the sounds of birds singing. Today, my life is even more peaceful. Backed by a vast, primeval forest and facing the broad expanse of Anaheim Lake, I live in a 3-story house. Whether standing on the nearly 30-square-meter balcony, gazing across the lake at the snowy mountain peaks, or sitting by the shore admiring the gentle ripples on the water, watching fish swim in the shallows or wild ducks playing, it all fills me with a deep sense of joy and tranquility. In fact, all of this had been imagined within my consciousness long before it became a reality. Now the question is, can anyone fulfill their wishes simply by imagining them? Yes, absolutely. The key question is, what exactly are you envisioning? Are you imagining accumulating more wealth? Becoming a high-ranking official? Bringing honor to your family? Living above others? Becoming famous, admired by all, and envied? Or perhaps you imagine overpowering others, avenging wrongs, or leaping across social classes? Do you possess the patience and peace of mind to envision an ideal future? It's hard, isn't it? Maybe you find it challenging imagining a beautiful future, even if you try. Why is that? There are 2 core reasons. First, it may not exist within your consciousness, meaning there's a lack of blessings or divine destiny. In other words, there was no accumulation of good karma in your past lives. Second, there hasn't been enough giving and dedication. The law of balancing positive and negative energies prevents such imagination. To imagine a beautiful future for yourself, several qualities are essential: purity, simplicity, kindness, and a soul garden free of weeds and harmful thoughts, filled only with fragrant, blossoming flowers. You must also have treasures stored in heaven, as only a beautiful life deserves to enjoy a beautiful environment. Every environment is matched to one's consciousness. If beauty is absent in your consciousness, then there will be little beauty in your environment. Look at the world around you. The bait on a mousetrap lures the mouse, while bait on a fishing hook entices the fish. Aren't wealth, power, fame, and status much like the bait on a trap or hook? Imagine tomorrow is your last day on life's journey. What will you be able to take with you? Not a single worldly possession will go with you. Only the contents of your consciousness, the things you consider most precious, will accompany you. If what you treasure lies in heaven, then you will go to heaven. If your treasures lie in this world, then you will inevitably return here. In essence, your future environment is composed of the elements within your consciousness. Imagination shapes the future, but if there is no wisdom and beauty within, then no amount of imagination can envision heavenly scenes. It will only be able to conjure images of the human world, or even scenes from the animal or plant worlds. 利益越高路越宽. The higher the aspiration, the wider the path. Jiefeng. October 20, 2023. Translation edited by Chinyo. In places where competition is fierce, survival conditions become harsher, and relationships between people become more tense, making the acquisition of survival resources more brutal. The simpler and easier the pathway to obtain survival resources, the more intense the competition becomes. For a job that anyone can do, the more sought after it becomes, the fiercer the competition. For a job that only 1 in 10 people can do, the competition is relatively less fierce. Then, for a job that only 1 in 100, 1,000, a million, or a billion people can do, we find that the fewer people who can do it, the less competitive it is because there are not many people competing with oneself. For example, a surface coal mining company recruiting miners will attract many applicants. However, the Mariana Trench Exploration Company, due to the high difficulty involved, would likely struggle to find more than a few suitable candidates worldwide. A government unit recruiting civil servants, hiring 10 of them, may attract hundreds or thousands of applicants, making the competition fierce. But if Elon Musk is recruiting someone capable of controlling the global nuclear weapons button to prevent nuclear-armed countries from launching nuclear weapons, probably only very few people can be found in the world at present. In 1997, I went to the Harare labor market to recruit a male flower worker and a female worker for laundry, cleaning, and hygiene. When the car arrived at the market, before I could even get out of the car, many people surrounded it. There were many people who wanted to do flower work and household chores. Later, when I went to the market to recruit shop assistants, the situation was the same. Then, when I opened a bar and tried to recruit a bartender, there were very few suitable candidates. Later, when I opened a nightclub and tried to recruit a DJ mixer, I couldn't find one. I had to hire a DJ mixer instead. From this, we discovered a small secret, which is that if you want to find a job with low competition and high income in society, you must have special talents and be different from others. Without putting in effort and undergoing rigorous training during our upbringing, we can only compete with many others for our livelihood. This involves the question of the meaning of life, that is, from an early age, we must consider what kind of work or career to engage in. Each person has 24 hours a day, and where we allocate our time and energy is a major factor in whether we will be happy or not in our lives. Now, there are thousands of job types in front of us. Which one will you choose? For example, shining shoes, making shoes, repairing shoes, herding sheep, herding horses, farming, gardening, being a shop assistant, a police officer, a taxi driver, a delivery person, a grocery store manager, a restaurant owner, a teacher, a civil servant, a worker, a soldier, a workshop technician, an engineer, a professor, a painter, a doctor, a lawyer, a judge, a musician, a performer, an entrepreneur, a writer, and so on. We find that the faster the income comes, the simpler and more accessible the job is, and the more people can do it, the more intense the competition will be. For example, shining shoes on the street can bring income on the same day, working as a laborer, a teacher, or a civil servant can bring income in the same month, and farming and gardening can bring income in the same season. However, to become a professor, an engineer, or an entrepreneur requires upfront investment, effort, and more investment. In conclusion, to avoid fierce competition and maximize income, one must first invest. The longer the investment period, the fewer competitors there will be, and the greater the benefits will be. At this point, we find that due to the need for survival or the pressure of survival, most people have given up investing and turned to seeking quick profits. They go where they can make money quickly and engage in work that can bring immediate gains. As a result, the number of elite individuals in all walks of life is decreasing, while outstanding individuals are becoming fewer and fewer, and the number of ordinary people is increasing. Everyone is familiar with the story of Mencius' mother moving 3 times. Why did Mencius' mother move 3 times? It was actually for her son's aspiration. In the end, because of his high aspirations, Mencius became a great thinker who has been passed down through the ages. The higher the aspiration, the more one must endure long-term solitary struggles. One must endure rigorous training and withstand the temptations of money, power, fame, and beauty. Additionally, one must persevere in focusing one's mind and spirit on one's ideals. Finally, one must invest one's time and energy in one's own career. Do not be hasty for quick success. Those who are hasty for quick success will never become outstanding figures. So, what is the highest aspiration? Whether it is herding sheep, shining shoes, farming, or becoming a professor, a doctor, or a financier, the ultimate result is death. It's considered good to live safely until the age of 70 or 80, thinking about life's brevity, tossing around, and eventually becoming a handful of ashes in a bone ash box. Thinking of such an end, all hopes are dashed. Therefore, we find that becoming a celestial being is the highest aspiration in life. Not only can one enjoy the joys of life to the fullest, but there is also a wonderful future ahead. Do you want to become a celestial being? 来世不落帝王家的启示 The revelation of not born into a royal family in the next life. By Xiefeng. November 25, 2023. Translation edited by Chinyo. Looking through history, countless individuals born into royal families have met tragic fates, with many facing massacres or even complete annihilation. Even those who ascend to the throne, how many of them meet peaceful ends? Fathers and sons vie for power, family members turn against each other, and siblings are torn apart. Once ousted from power, those associated with the emperor are often massacred. If they are imprisoned or exiled instead of being completely slaughtered, it could be seen as a result of past blessings. Not only do those born into royal families suffer, but individuals born in war-torn regions also face hardships. Moreover, being born into a certain family can lead to being implicated, and even result in the massacre of staff and servants. Similarly, joining a particular organization, be it a political party, religious group, or organized crime syndicate, can lead to dire consequences if it falls from grace, with imprisonment being inevitable. In places where power struggles are fierce, standing with the wrong person or joining the wrong side can have dreadful consequences. Throughout history, soldiers from both sides have shed blood in battles, but have we ever considered that these soldiers are beloved children of mothers, cherished husbands of wives, and respected fathers of children? Why do they engage in mutual slaughter? There is a tale of a criminal who complained to the greatest creator when the ship he was on sank, saying, "Why, to punish just me, did you have to drown over 200 people?" A distant voice from the heavens responded, "It wasn't an easy task to gather over 200 people who were destined to perish, was it? During an earthquake, tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands may perish in an instant. A flood can separate the living from the dead in a village within moments. An airplane crash can cause hundreds of people to vanish without a trace in an instant. Timing, luck, destiny. What do these phenomena teach us? Beneath the glory of power lurk invisible dangers and threats of violence. Beneath the glimmer of wealth hide endless servility and misery. Underneath the extravagance of pleasure lie numerous tears of helplessness and lurking crises. Underneath the allure of beauty lies endless bitterness, endurance, and looming danger. Beneath the radiance of fame hide indescribable impurities and corruption. Beneath the clamor of excitement lie countless disasters, misfortunes, and despair. These give us some insights into how to live our lives. Do not be misled by surface glamour, honor, and wealth. Do not walk towards power, status, wealth, fame, beauty, or excitement. For those who do, inevitable strife and misfortune await. The reverse is the movement of Tao. Walk towards places where crowds are sparse, towards auspiciousness and brightness, towards simplicity and tranquility, towards joy, happiness, freedom, and bliss, towards the path of nature. By doing so, you can minimize disasters and unexpected blows. So, where do you intend to be born in the next life? 莫为没落产业而惋惜. Do not lament over declining industries. Xiefeng. February 14, 2023. Translation edited by Chinyo. Facts tell us that death is inevitable for everyone, so there is no need to lament over it. Since the ultimate end of life is death, is it necessary to feel sorrow or joy over the losses and gains along life's journey? Absolutely not. History tells us that everything in existence will eventually decline and disappear, so there is no need to get excited or invest too much time and energy into all these things. With mobile phones becoming common, how many people still read newspapers and magazines? Printed newspapers and magazines belong to declining industries. These days, fewer people watch TV, so the television industry is also in decline. Cameras, flashlights, calculators, and landline phones, all once related to mobile phones, have also become declining industries, or we could call them dying industries. There is no reason to lament over this. In Chinese history, there was the farce of the overthrow the Qing, restore the Ming movement. Those who participated were serious, but what was the result? Tragic sacrifices. Why did they meet such a tragic end? The fundamental reason is that they invested in a declining industry, in other words, a dying industry. Historically, those who exhausted their efforts and sacrificed their lives for the states of Qi, Chu, Yan, Han, Zhao, and Wei, states from China's Warring States period, eventually died with regret, their lives ending in tragedy. The reason is that defending the existence and continuation of a state itself was a declining industry. In the future, human society will inevitably become a unified society, one without nations. Therefore, all those who pledge loyalty to their country and sacrifice their lives for it, be they Americans, Russians, Germans, or Japanese, are working for declining industries. By doing so, they are creating personal tragedies. Who else is tirelessly striving for declining industries and, in doing so, creating tragedies for their lives? Over 20 years ago, when I was attending an advanced international trade training course at the University of International Business and Economics in Beijing, one of the subjects was how to send economic data and information using codes through telegrams. That course was quite demanding, and I put in a lot of effort to master it. Then fax machines appeared, and suddenly there was no need to send information using coded telegrams. All that knowledge became useless, and the time and energy spent on learning it were wasted. Looking back now, that course was clearly part of a declining industry. If we had known that fax machines would be available in a year or two, who would have bothered learning it? Now, with the rise of ChatGPT, who would still want to spend years studying to become an accountant, lawyer, clerk, or bank employee? These are all declining professions, and investing time and money in them is setting oneself up for tragedy. Are there still workers at gas stations who fill up vehicles? No. Not long ago, I visited a Walmart in Williams Lake. After buying my items and going to the checkout, I found no cashiers. Everything was automated by machines. So where did the cashiers go? In fact, anyone who exhausts their efforts in pursuit of money, power, status, or fame is wasting their precious time on declining industries, creating their own tragedies. Nature is constantly and dramatically changing, and even whether you will see the sun tomorrow is uncertain. Everything you've worked for could vanish like a popped bubble in an instant. So, are there industries that are not declining? Yes, there are. The industries that bring you happiness, joy, freedom, and fulfillment are eternal industries. The industries that lead you from this world to heaven are the ones truly worth dedicating your life to. 免费的来自上帝，昂贵的来自魔. What is free comes from the greatest creator. What is expensive comes from the devil. Jiefeng. January 7, 2023. Translation edited by Qin Yu. The way of nature is the way of the greatest creator. Everything in nature is free and provided to all life without charge: sunlight, air, soil, water, and so on. When people appreciate the beauty of nature and feel joy, or when they experience the wonderful sensations of climax due to excitement, these are all gifts from the greatest creator, freely bestowed upon life. Ultimately, we will realize that all free things and beautiful experiences come from the greatest creator. Every year, many people affected by disasters worldwide receive free food, tents, medicine, clothes, and other supplies from the United Nations. This too reflects the care and protection from the greatest creator. When someone offers help to others for free, expecting nothing in return, they embody the attributes of the greatest creator and are worthy of praise and respect. If a being lives in an environment where everything is free, they are living in the kingdom of the greatest creator, in heaven. In the second home of Life Genuine, everything for each member, from food, clothing, housing, and transportation to birth, aging, illness, and death, is provided free of charge. Even romantic relationships cost nothing and incur no debts. Therefore, the second home belongs to the kingdom of the greatest creator. In human society, everything has a price tag, and people are driven to pursue money in order to buy these things. This is not the will of the greatest creator. It is the plan of the devil. For example, encouraging young people to buy houses, take on mortgages, and make monthly payments to the bank increases their living costs and mental stress. This way of life is not a blessing from the greatest creator but a scheme of the devil. Everything should be shared freely. Humanity can live a heavenly life, but human nature's inherent selfishness, greed, arrogance, laziness, and love of comfort prevent the birth, development, and growth of the greatest creator's kingdom on earth. All of this is the result of people's own choices. What I want to tell people is this: do not continue thinking about survival issues using old ways of thinking, nor continue living according to your established lifestyles, because there is no beautiful future in that direction. If possible, offer free services to others as much as you can, and ideally enter a way of life where everything is free. In this way, you will not only escape worries, pain, anxiety, sorrow, and fear, but also break free from the cycle of reincarnation. This is because you are walking on the path of the greatest creator, not the path of the devil. Walking on the path of the greatest creator may be difficult at first, but the future becomes increasingly beautiful. Walking on the devil's path may seem easy at first, but it grows harder and darker as you go. 消灭资本家是穷人的噩梦. Eliminating capitalists is a nightmare for the poor. Jiefeng. February 16, 2022. This may seem like a paradox. How can eliminating capitalists be a nightmare for the poor? Without capitalists, there would be no one to exploit the poor, and the poor should get richer. So why instead would they become poorer? Let's begin with a theoretical deduction, followed by some factual examples. Imagine a remote village with 100 impoverished residents, barely surviving on insufficient food and clothing. Suddenly, a capitalist from abroad arrives and builds a food processing factory. He encourages the villagers to plant apple trees, buys their apples, and processes them into apple cider vinegar to sell for profit. He also hires 10 local workers and pays them wages. This way, many villagers who plant apple trees gain a stable income, and the 10 factory workers have secure jobs. Gradually, the local economy picks up. Those with a bit of money start spending, and small businesses spring up around the factory: a restaurant, a barber shop, a tailor, and a grocery store. The village economy begins to thrive, attracting outsiders. Girls come to marry local boys, some open repair shops, others build a school. Little by little, the place becomes livelier and more prosperous. Roads are built, buildings go up, a bank opens. The poor are no longer poor. Later, the villagers discover that the capitalist lives in a luxury villa abroad, flies first class, and drives an expensive car. They become envious. Why does he get to drive a fancy car while we're still riding tractors? We work ourselves to the bone to afford a 60 square meter apartment, and he lives in a mansion. This capitalist must have gotten rich by exploiting us. He has been living off the blood of us working people. The villagers decide. We must seize his wealth and drive him out of our village. So the capitalist is forced to leave, and the villagers celebrate. But soon they realize the factory has shut down, their apples can't be sold, and the small businesses around the factory start closing one by one. The village's economy sinks into decline. Girls from outside stop coming, and even local girls don't want to stay, they leave too. Incomes disappear, many men can't find partners, and they can no longer afford utilities for their apartments. Within a few years, the village returns to its original state of poverty. This theoretical deduction shows that eliminating capitalists doesn't improve the lives of the poor. Now let's look at a few real-world examples. I'll mention them briefly. You can find the details online. Argentina. Once ranked among the world's top 10 economies, it was hailed as a rising second America. Europeans envied Argentina, saying, "You're as rich as an Argentine." Many Europeans immigrated there. But over time, Argentina declined, and now 40% of its population lives in poverty. Venezuela. Once the wealthiest country in Latin America, famous for its black gold oil, Venezuela was an early middle-income nation. Today, over 2 million Venezuelans have fled their country, and it has become impoverished. Zimbabwe. Once the breadbasket of southern Africa, the cradle of civilization in southern Africa and a tourist hotspot, it is now one of the poorest countries in the world. What caused these three nations to fall from paradise into misery? The root cause was the elimination of capitalists. Compare this to South Korea and North Korea, or West Germany and East Germany. South Korea and West Germany kept their capitalists so they prospered. North Korea and East Germany eliminated capitalists so they remained poor. Both theoretical deductions and harsh realities show that eliminating capitalists won't change the poverty of the poor. If the poor want to become wealthy, they must embrace capitalists. Now let's assume you're poor, and before a capitalist arrived, your annual income was $10,000. After the capitalist comes, your income rises to $100,000. Is it better to have the capitalist or not? As a poor person, if you benefit from having a capitalist around, why drive him away or eliminate him? Why worry about how the capitalist enjoys his wealth? He's not a saint. If he works hard and lives lavishly, isn't that only natural? His enjoyment is his own business. The poor should focus on their own gains. As long as your life is improving, Why be jealous of the capitalist's wealth? The conclusion is this: the poor's path to prosperity lies in embracing capitalists, not eliminating them. Some may say, "I'll rely on the government." Are you foolish? The government is a consumer of wealth, not a creator of it. Relying on consumers to increase your wealth is like relying on thieves to make you rich. 忘记目标极限泥淖. Forget your goal and you'll sink into the mire. Jiefeng. September 29, 2024. A life without a goal is one weighed down by trivial worries, suffering, conflicts, setbacks, anxiety, and fears that will haunt you all your life. For those who have a life goal yet forget it on the way, distracted by fame, personal gain, desires, or overwhelmed by challenges, they quickly fall into a mire of jealousy, comparisons, anger, resentment, quarrels, and rivalry. Harmony with others becomes almost impossible, and relationships turn turbulent, filled with opposition, conflict, and overwhelming bitterness. The grander the goal, the lighter life feels. The more short-sighted the goal, the more burdensome life will be. If you find yourself feeling frustrated, disheartened, or agitated by others' laziness, greed, selfishness, aggression, or indifference, it's likely because you either have no life goal or you've forgotten it. To illustrate, let's consider the life of a Chanyuan celestial. A Chanyuan celestial has two core goals. 1. To experience joy, freedom, happiness, and bliss. And 2. To extend their life into the 1,000-year world, 10,000-year world, or celestial island's continent of Elysium. With a clear goal, life becomes straightforward, lighter, and easier. You avoid deep connections with those whose paths contradict your goals, ignore distractions, and avoid paths that diverge from your purpose. You won't follow such a path, no matter how appealing, even if it's lined with wealth, fame, beauty, or promises of prestige and honor. But what if those close to you, parents, children, a spouse, siblings, friends, or coworkers, bring you distress? First, don't try to change others. Everyone has their own life path. Trying to change someone else is often a thankless task. Let those bound for heaven go to heaven, and those destined for hell go to hell. Allow a carrot to remain a carrot and a cabbage to remain a cabbage. Trying to turn one into the other is not their problem, but yours. As a popular saying goes, those who can change themselves are wise. Those who try to change others are foolish. Don't turn yourself into a fool. Second, if you see someone heading down the wrong path, don't let it burden you. Let them do as they will. Focus instead on living responsibly and within your means. When you prepare food, share it with them gladly. If they do not share with you, let it go calmly without anger or resentment. If you're busy while they are idle, don't feel jealous or frustrated. You focus on your tasks and they on theirs. Leave the ultimate reckoning to the universe. It will eventually settle all accounts. Finally, never lose sight of your goal. Think of yourself as a celestial being, maintaining your virtues even if those around you, family, friends, and colleagues, are mere mortals. Continue your journey toward the celestial world, undisturbed by the behavior and opinions of others. Contribute selflessly, unconcerned with gain or loss. One day, if you reach the celestial world and look back, you'll clearly see the circumstances of those who once brought you distress. Ultimately, those who live the most freely, confidently, and brightly are those without ego, selfishness, or attachment. All who experience trouble, pain, anxiety, or fear lack a life goal and are bound by strong egotism, selfishness, and self-centeredness. Let the dead be, let the living live. Just keep climbing toward your goal. 站在外面看里面. Seeing within from the outside. Jiefeng. September 30, 2024. You cannot see the true face of Mount Lu simply because you are within the mountain. When you're inside, the truth remains elusive. In the late Qing dynasty, the high-ranking official Li Hongzhang visited the United States. He saw skyscrapers, highways filled with cars, men in suits, and women in fashionable attire. After returning to China, he was almost silent. Why? The difference between America and China was overwhelming. China had no tall buildings or cars. Men still wore long robes with queues, and women bound their feet. Without an external perspective, one could hardly recognize the backwardness, ignorance, stubbornness, and isolation that characterized China at that time. 30 years ago, I traveled to Zimbabwe. Waking up in a villa to the sound of chirping birds, I was amazed. People lived so comfortably here. in spacious homes with green lawns, vibrant flowers, and clear swimming pools. I decided never to return to China. Later, I spent over a year in a modest, remote place called Kyookyo. Here, local Africans led simple lives with humble homes, basic food, and a relaxed lifestyle. They spent their days singing, dancing, and playing, living freely and happily. Though simply dressed, they kept themselves meticulously clean, often washing their clothes daily. Their floors were spotless, their lives simple but free and joyful. Looking back at China, life seemed excessively burdensome, with outer polish masking inner struggles. After arriving in North America and learning about Western history over the past few centuries, I gained a new perspective on China's history. Lu Sun was right. China's history is a cannibalistic history. Claims of China's glorious 5,000-year culture often mask a harsh reality. This history reflects an inhumane nature. Everyone was enslaved, including emperors controlled by power. Beyond music and landscape painting, China's cultural legacy is frankly a mess. However, when you look closer, Chinese history is filled with talent. The intellect of the Chinese people rivals that of any nation. If Chinese people were allowed to freely express their creativity without repression, China would undoubtedly excel globally. Thus, we must be vigilant. As Chinese people, if we remain unaware of life outside China or of the developments in Western science, philosophy, and sociology, we will live in a space where right and wrong, true and false, black and white, are blurred. Our life perspectives, values, and worldviews become chaotic and inhumane. So, when an isolated Chinese person believes they are right, they are likely profoundly mistaken. On WeChat's video channel, I frequently encounter people's views, especially from well-known figures. They discuss human nature, advise against its flaws, advocate overcoming adversity, or crossing class boundaries. These teachings seem to encourage people not to be human, but to become wolves, ghosts, or monsters. As a result, I feel deeply pessimistic about China's future. Does this mean that developed countries like the United States, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, the United Kingdom, Germany, France, or Japan are flawless? Not at all. From the perspective of the thousand-year world, they too appear disturbingly flawed. Seen from the highly civilized Elysium world, Earth appears like a hell brimming with monsters and demons, akin to a prison for the condemned. Humanity remains far from true civilization. Let's now narrow the focus to individuals. The hardest thing in the world is to know oneself. Among billions globally, few truly know themselves. Many perceive others clearly but struggle to see themselves. All those who stubbornly cling to their beliefs, who assert their correctness, and who are self-centered are fundamentally ignorant about themselves and are among the hardest to save. To truly understand oneself, one must step outside their immediate environment, be it the earth, their nation, culture, or humanity. Only from an external perspective can one see things clearly. To truly see oneself, one must first identify a reference point in the coordinate system of life. Without a reference, we remain self-assured but muddled, no different from animals, plants, or insects. Xiefeng's perspectives on current affairs. Insights from the Life Genuine Guide. The United States must not deport undocumented immigrants. By Xiefeng.